The crystal chandelier above table 14 had a water spot that nobody else seemed to notice. Emma Reyes had been staring at it for the past 3 minutes, while Richard Castellano, owner of Marcello's, tore apart her career with the same casual precision he used to debone a branzino. "You vouched for her," Richard said, not bothering to lower his voice. Other diners were pretending not to listen. "You personally recommended Sofia Martinez for this position. You said she was ready." Emma's feet ached in her heels. 8 hours into her shift, and this conversation was happening in the middle of the Friday dinner rush, the busiest night of the week at Manhattan's most exclusive Italian restaurant. Around them, wealthy patrons sipped $1,500 bottles of wine and pretended the staff drama was invisible. "She is ready," Emma said quietly, keeping her voice steady. "It was an honest mistake. She served a $3,000 bottle of Barolo to the wrong table." Richard's face was turning that particular shade of red that meant someone was getting fired. "Do you know how that makes us look? Do you have any idea what Mr. Castellano said when he realized? If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you." Emma's stomach clenched. "Mr. Castellano." Not Richard Castellano, the owner, but the Castellano. Vincent Castellano, who supposedly owned half the legitimate businesses in Lower Manhattan and all of the illegitimate ones. The man whose family name made grown men nervous. "It was my section," Emma interrupted, desperation creeping into her voice. "I should have double-checked the wine order. I was training Sofia, so the responsibility is mine. Fire me if you need to fire someone, but please don't punish her for fire. I'm firing you both." Richard crossed his arms. "Effective immediately. Collect your things, and leave through the service entrance." The floor tilted slightly beneath Emma's feet. She'd worked at Marcello's for 4 years. She'd clawed her way up from busser to senior server, saved every spare dollar, sent money home to her mother in Queens, built a life that felt almost stable. And Sofia, God. Sofia was 19, working 2 jobs to pay for community college, supporting her grandmother. "Please." The word came out smaller than Emma intended. "Please don't fire her. She's a good kid. She works hard. She's never late. She cost us $3,000 and embarrassed us in front of our most important client." Richard's voice was ice. "There are consequences for incompetence." "It wasn't incompetence." Emma heard her voice rising and didn't care anymore. "It was a mistake. One mistake. She's been working doubles all week because her grandmother needs medication she can't afford, and she was tired, and I should have caught it. So fire me. I'm the senior server. I'm responsible. But Sofia needs this job, please." She was begging now. Emma Reyes, who'd survived 5 years in Manhattan on her own, who'd never asked anyone for anything, was begging this pompous man not to ruin a teenager's life over expensive wine. "My decision is final." Richard turned away, dismissing her. "Both of you. Out." "That won't be necessary." The voice came from behind Emma, smooth and quiet and somehow carrying more authority than Richard's bluster ever could. She turned. The man from table 12 stood 5 feet away. Emma had served him before, maybe a dozen times over the past year. He always requested the same corner table, always ordered the same meal. Osso buco, no wine, espresso after, and always left a generous but not ostentatious tip. 35% exactly, every single time. He was probably in his late 30s, tall and lean in a charcoal suit that fit too perfectly to be off the rack. Dark hair touched with distinguished gray at the temples. Dark eyes, and that saw everything. The kind of face that belonged in old Italian films, all sharp angles and controlled intensity. Emma had always found him slightly intimidating but couldn't explain why. He never raised his voice, never snapped his fingers for service, never treated the staff poorly. But there was something about the way other diners looked at him, the way conversations quieted when he entered, the way Richard himself always personally greeted this particular guest. "Mr. De Luca," Richard stammered, his red face going white. "I apologize for the disturbance. This situation is being handled. By firing 2 employees over my wine? The man, Mr. De Luca tilted his head slightly. "Seems excessive. Your wine was served to the wrong table, sir. The Barolo you ordered." "I noticed." Mr. De Luca's expression didn't change. "I also noticed the young woman who made the error immediately caught her mistake, apologized profusely to the other table, and corrected it within 90 seconds. The couple who received my wine by accident seemed delighted by the unexpected upgrade. I received my Barolo perfectly chilled at the correct temperature. No harm occurred. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Yes, but the principle, Mr. De Luca said softly, is that mistakes happen. The response to those mistakes reveals character. His dark eyes moved to Emma, and she felt the full weight of his attention for the first time. Miss Reyes, correct? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. How did he know her name? She'd served him perhaps a dozen times, but they'd barely exchanged 20 words total. Just the usual, good evening, your usual, sir. Thank you. Enjoy your meal. You've served me before. Always professional. Always attentive without being intrusive. Excellent service. He paused. And just now, you offered to sacrifice your own position to protect your colleague. That's admirable. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. She didn't understand what was happening. Why was this customer involving himself? Why did Richard look like he might pass out? Mr. De Luca, I assure you, Richard started. How much does this establishment charge for that Barolo? Mr. De Luca interrupted. $3,000, sir. Mr. De Luca reached into his jacket and withdrew a wallet. From it, he counted out 30 $100 bills with the casual ease of someone buying coffee. He held them out to Richard. For the inconvenience. Now we're settled. His tone made it clear this wasn't a negotiation. I expect both Miss Reyes and Miss Martinez to retain their positions. In fact, I'd suggest a raise for Miss Reyes. Leadership under pressure should be rewarded. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Emma could hear her own heartbeat, could feel dozens of eyes on this scene, could see Richard's hands trembling as he took the money. Of course, Mr. De Luca. Absolutely. There's no need for such generosity, but there's every need. Mr. De Luca's voice remained quiet, but something sharp entered it. I don't frequent establishments that punish employees for human error while I'm supposedly the offended party. It reflects poorly on management. The unspoken threat hung in the air. Richard understood it. Emma saw the moment he calculated what it would mean if this man stopped coming to Marcello's, stopped recommending it, stopped whatever else he did that made his opinion matter so much. You're absolutely right, sir. I apologize. Miss Reyes, Miss Martinez, please disregard what I said earlier. Emma, you're obviously not fired. In fact, Richard was sweating now. In fact, consider this your formal promotion to assistant floor manager, with appropriate salary adjustment. Emma stared at him. Assistant floor manager. A position that didn't exist 10 seconds ago. And Miss Martinez? Mr. De Luca prompted. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Continues in her current role with a notation of excellent recovery from error in her file. And Richard was improvising frantically now. And a $50 bonus for her quick thinking in correcting the situation. Generous. Mr. De Luca tucked his wallet away. I trust this matter is resolved? Completely resolved, sir. Thank you for your understanding and your patronage. Mr. De Luca nodded once, then turned back to his table. The message was clear. Dismissed. Emma stood frozen as Richard hurried away, muttering about paperwork. Around her, conversation slowly resumed. The normal sounds of the restaurant returned, clinking silverware, murmured dialogue, the soft piano music from the corner. But Emma couldn't move. She stared at the back of Mr. De Luca's head as he returned to his ossobuco. He'd just, what? Saved her job? Saved Sofia's job? Created a promotion out of thin air with $3,000 in cash and a few quiet words? Her hands were shaking. Emma pressed them flat against her sides, trying to process what had just happened. Emma? Sofia appeared at her elbow, eyes red from crying. Did I just see? Is it true? We're not fired? We're not fired. Emma's voice sounded strange to her own ears. Oh my God! Sofia hugged her impulsively. Thank you. Thank you for standing up for me. I'm so sorry about the wine. It's okay. Emma hugged her back, trying to smile. It's okay. Just, let's finish the shift. We'll talk later. Sofia nodded and hurried back to her section. Emma took a breath, straightened her apron, and did what she always did. She went back to work. But for the rest of the night, she was hyper-aware of Table 12. Of the man who ate his ossobuco slowly, methodically, occasionally making notes in a leather-bound book he kept beside his plate. He never looked at her directly again. But Emma felt observed nonetheless. At 11:45, he finished his espresso and signaled for the check. Emma's manager, Marcus, who'd mysteriously appeared for the closing shift despite not being scheduled, personally delivered it. They exchanged a few words Emma couldn't hear. Then Mr. De Luca stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked toward the exit. He paused beside Emma's station. She was counting silverware, pretending she hadn't been tracking his movements. "Miss Reyes." She looked up. Up close, his eyes were even darker than she'd thought. Not black, but deep brown, like espresso. There was something in them she couldn't read. Not kindness exactly, but not cruelty either. Something measured, calculating. "Thank you for your service tonight," he said formally. "And congratulations on your promotion." "Thank you, sir." Emma's mouth was dry. "And thank you for, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did." He smiled slightly, and it transformed his entire face for just a moment. Made him look younger, almost gentle. Loyalty is rare. It should be protected. Then he was gone, disappearing through the front entrance into the Manhattan night. Through the window, Emma saw him get into a black town car that had been waiting. The car pulled away smoothly, merging into traffic. "Holy shit," Marcus breathed beside her. "Do you know who that is?" "Mr. De Luca," Emma said slowly. "He comes in regularly. That's Dante De Luca." Marcus was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. "Dante De Luca, as in the De Luca family. As in," he lowered his voice to barely a whisper, "as in, he basically owns this neighborhood. This restaurant pays protection to his people. Half the legitimate businesses in Little Italy operate with his blessing." Marcus seemed to struggle for words. "He's not someone you want to owe a favor to." Emma's stomach dropped. "I don't owe him anything. He just dropped $3,000 to save your job and created a promotion for you." Marcus shook his head. "In his world, that's a debt. Whether you wanted it or not. I didn't ask for his help. Doesn't matter. You got it anyway." Marcus started walking away, then stopped. "Emma, be careful. The De Lucas don't do anything without a reason. He noticed you tonight. That's either very good or very bad, and I genuinely don't know which." Emma stood alone in the elegant dining room, surrounded by the detritus of the evening service wine glasses to be polished, tables to be reset, floors to be swept. The crystal chandelier above table 14 still had its water spot, but everything else had changed. She thought about Dante De Luca's dark eyes, the quiet authority in his voice, the way he'd dismantled Richard's anger with a few $1,000s and fewer words. She thought about Marcus's warning. She thought about the fact that a Mafia boss, because that's clearly what he was, had noticed her. Emma Reyes had lived in Manhattan for 5 years, keeping her head down, working hard, staying out of trouble. And in one night, with one act of desperate loyalty, she'd stepped onto the radar of the most dangerous man in Little Italy. She should be terrified. Instead, all she could think about was the moment his expression had softened, just for a second, when he'd said, loyalty should be protected, like it was something precious, something worth $3,000 and an implicit threat to her boss, something worth noticing. Emma finished her closing duties in a daze. Sofia caught her in the locker room afterward, hugging her again, gushing about her promotion, promising to work harder, to never make another mistake. Emma barely heard it. She changed out of her uniform, grabbed her coat, and stepped out into the October cold. The F train was late. Emma stood on the platform, exhausted, thinking about rent and her mother's upcoming doctor's appointment and the fact that assistant floor manager probably came with enough of a raise to actually make a difference. Thinking about how she should feel grateful. Thinking about Dante De Luca's eyes and the way the entire restaurant had gone silent when he spoke. She didn't notice the Blacktown car idling across the street from the subway entrance. Didn't see the man in the driver's seat make a phone call. Didn't know that 3 blocks away, in a private office above a restaurant he actually owned, Dante De Luca was reviewing a dossier that hadn't existed 3 hours ago. Emma Catherine Reyes, age 27, born in Queens, mother. Maria Reyes, retired teacher, living in Astoria. Father, deceased. No siblings. Bachelor's degree in hospitality management from Hunter College, graduated with honors. 4 years at Marcello's, promoted from busser to senior server. Clean record. No debts beyond student loans. No romantic entanglements. Lives alone in a studio in the East Village. Takes the F train to work. Dante closed the folder and looked at his second-in-command, Marco, who'd compiled it in record time. Thoughts? Dante asked. Marco shrugged. Clean, normal, exactly what she appears to be, a hard worker trying to make it in Manhattan. Nothing suspicious. She put herself between management and her colleague without hesitation. Dante tapped the folder. No thought for self-preservation, just immediate protection of someone weaker. Is that why you intervened? I intervened because firing employees over my wine is absurd. Dante stood, walking to the window overlooking Mulberry Street. But yes, the way she did it interested me. Boss. Marco's tone was careful. Richard Castellano is an idiot, but he's our idiot. You didn't need to threaten his business over a server you don't even know. I know her. Dante's reflection in the window was unreadable. I've been watching her work for months. She's good at her job, professional, never asks for special treatment. Tonight was the first time I've seen her advocate for herself. And even then, it wasn't for herself. It was for the kid. And that matters because loyalty matters, Marco. Real loyalty. Not the kind we buy or enforce. The kind that happens naturally, without calculation. Dante turned away from the window. How often do we see that? Marco was quiet for a moment. So what's your play here? No play. I ensured competent employees kept their positions. That's all. Boss. Marco's voice was flat. You don't do anything without 10 steps planned ahead. You created a promotion, threw $3,000 around like pocket change, and put your name on this situation. Now she knows who you are. Now she owes you. What's step 2? Dante smiled slightly. Step 2 is I see if Emma Reyes is as interesting as I think she is, or if she's smart enough to avoid interesting men like me. And if she's not, then things get complicated. Dante picked up his coat. Dante, make sure Castellano understands that both women are under protection now. No retaliation, no subtle harassment, nothing. They work in peace, or he finds a new business model. Protection. Marco repeated the word carefully. You're putting protection on a server at Marcello's. Problem? No, boss. Just making sure I understand the parameters. The parameters are simple. Emma Reyes remains safe and employed. That's all. Dante headed for the door, then paused. And Marco? I want to know if anyone else takes an interest in her. Anyone at all. After Dante left, Marco sat alone in the office, staring at Emma Reyes's file photo, a candid shot taken from her Hunter College ID. Pretty girl, tired eyes, determined smile. He hoped, for her sake, she was smart enough to stay away, because once Dante De Luca decided someone was worth protecting, it meant he'd also decided they were worth keeping. And in their world, being kept was far more dangerous than being forgotten. 3 days later, Emma's promotion became official. She got a $5,000 raise, a new title, and a desk in the cramped office where floor managers did paperwork. Sofia brought her flowers. The other, servers threw her a tiny celebration during the pre-shift meeting. Emma smiled and thanked everyone and tried not to think about the fact that none of this would have happened without Dante De Luca's intervention. He hadn't been back to the restaurant since that night. His usual table remained empty on Friday, empty on Saturday, empty on Tuesday. Part of Emma was relieved. Part of her, a part she didn't want to examine too closely, kept glancing at table 12, wondering. On Thursday afternoon, a delivery arrived for her. The hostess brought it to the office with raised eyebrows. Someone sent you flowers, Emma. Expensive ones. The arrangement was massive white roses and lilies in a crystal vase that probably cost more than Emma's monthly Metro card. The card was simple, cream-colored, with elegant script. Congratulations on your promotion. D.L. Emma stared at it for a long time. Her co-workers cooed over the flowers, speculated about secret admirers, teased her about having a wealthy boyfriend. Emma said nothing. That night, after her shift, she walked home instead of taking the train. She needed the cold air, needed to think. The flowers were both beautiful and wrong. A gift from a man she'd served a dozen times but never really spoken to. A man who was apparently a Mafia boss. A man who'd saved her job and Sofia's with casual ease, like he moved chess pieces on a board. Emma lived in a 4th-floor walk-up in the East Village. She climbed the stairs slowly, exhausted, and unlocked her door to find her apartment exactly as she'd left it that morning. Small, clean, safe. Hers. She made tea and sat by her window, looking out at the street below. Somewhere out there, Dante De Luca existed in a world Emma didn't understand. A world of power and danger and casual displays of wealth that could reshape someone's life in an evening. She should forget about him. She should be grateful for the promotion, work hard, live her life. She should absolutely not wonder why he'd noticed her, why he'd intervened, why he'd sent flowers. Emma's phone buzzed. Her mother calling from Queens. Hi, Mama. Mija. I heard about your promotion. Mrs. Chen told me she saw the announcement in that restaurant magazine. Assistant floor manager. I'm so proud of you. Emma smiled despite everything. Thanks, Mama. It's good. A good raise. You deserve it. You work so hard. Too hard sometimes. Her mother's voice softened. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping? Yes, Mama. I'm fine. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing important. Her mother's book club, the neighbor's new dog, repairs needed on the building's front steps. Normal life. Safe life. When Emma hung up, she felt the distance between her world and Dante De Luca's like a physical thing. He existed in a realm where $3,000 was nothing, where restaurants paid protection money, where power moved beneath the surface of normal society. She was just a girl from Queens who'd gotten lucky with a promotion. Except, she hadn't gotten lucky. She'd been given that promotion by a man who presumably didn't give anything without expecting something in return. Emma finished her tea and got ready for bed, but sleep wouldn't come. She lay in the dark, staring at her ceiling, trying not to think about dark eyes and quiet authority and the way her name had sounded in that smooth voice. Miss Reyes. She was in trouble, and she hadn't even done anything yet. Just stood up for a coworker. Just caught the attention of the wrong man. Or maybe the right man, depending on how you looked at it. Emma rolled over, punched her pillow, and told herself firmly to go to sleep. Tomorrow was Friday, the busy night, and she had responsibilities now. Real responsibilities. She definitely didn't wonder if Dante De Luca would come back to Marcello's. She definitely didn't think about what she'd say to him if he did. And she absolutely didn't admit, even to herself, that some small part of her wanted to see him again. Wanted to understand why he'd noticed her. What he saw that made her worth protecting. 3 floors below, parked discreetly across the street, one of Marco's men sat in an unmarked car, keeping watch, following Dante's orders to ensure Emma Reyes made it home safely. The man had been at this for 3 nights now. He didn't question it. When the boss gave orders, you followed them. Even when those orders made it clear that something was starting, something that would change everything for the girl sleeping peacefully 4 floors up, unaware she was already being protected. The following Friday, Dante De Luca returned to Marcello's. Emma saw him the moment he walked through the door at 7:30, precisely when he always arrived. Her heart did something complicated in her chest, a skip, a flutter, something she absolutely did not have time to analyze during the dinner rush. He wore a different suit tonight, navy instead of charcoal, but the same air of quiet authority. The hostess, a new girl named Veronica who didn't know any better, started to lead him to a table by the window. Mr. De Luca prefers table 12. Emma intercepted smoothly, already moving toward his usual corner. This way, sir. Dante's eyes met hers for just a moment, and she saw something flicker in them. Amusement? Approval? It was gone before she could be sure. Miss Reyes, he said as she pulled out his chair. Congratulations on your promotion. I heard it became official. Thank you. Emma set down the wine list he never used. And thank you for the flowers. They were beautiful. Too generous, really. Generosity is relative. He settled into his seat, and Emma noticed other diners watching. They always watched Dante De Luca, though most tried to be subtle about it. How's Miss Martinez adjusting? The fact that he remembered Sofia's name sent a small shiver down Emma's spine. She's doing well. Much more confident. She actually thanked you, through me, several times. She has nothing to thank me for. She corrected her own mistake efficiently. That deserves recognition, not punishment. Dante opened his menu. Though Emma knew he'd order the osso buco, he always did. You, however, deserve thanks. What you did that night protecting your colleague that took courage. Emma's hands weren't quite steady as she filled his water glass. It was the right thing to do. The right thing often requires more courage than we'd like to admit. He looked up at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. Most people choose safety over righteousness. You didn't. I couldn't let Sofia lose her job over one mistake. No, you couldn't. Something in his tone suggested deeper meaning. That quality, the inability to look away when someone needs help, that's rare. Valuable. Emma didn't know what to say to that. She fell back on professionalism. Would you like your usual this evening, sir? The osso buco? Actually, I'd like a recommendation. What would you order if you were dining here? The question surprised her. In 4 years at Marcello's, across hundreds of tables, no one had ever asked what she would eat. Customers assumed servers couldn't afford the menu, or didn't have sophisticated enough palates, or simply didn't matter as people with opinions. The agnolotti, she said after a moment. The ricotta and pear agnolotti with brown butter sage sauce. Chef makes them fresh daily, and they're perfect. Light but rich. The sweetness of the pear balanced against the sage. It's comfort food disguised as fine dining. Dante smiled a real smile this time, not the polite version he gave other staff. You're a poet about pasta. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. I really like that dish. Then I'll trust your judgment. The agnolotti, please. And, he paused, studying her face. When did you last eat today, Miss Reyes? The question was so unexpected that Emma answered honestly. Breakfast. I had a granola bar around 2, but... She stopped, realizing how that sounded. I've been busy with the promotion. New responsibilities. Too busy to eat. Dante's expression didn't change, but his voice held a note of disapproval. That's unacceptable. When is your break? I don't usually take one on Fridays. We're too busy. You'll take one tonight. It wasn't a question. 30 minutes. Have the kitchen prepare whatever you'd like. Put it on my bill. Sir, I can't. You recommended an excellent dish. The least I can do is ensure you're properly fed while managing this establishment. Dante returned his attention to the menu. The matter clearly settled in his mind. That's not a request, Miss Reyes. That's a condition of my continued patronage. Emma stared at him. He was blackmailing her into eating dinner. Politely, elegantly, but still. I thank you. That's very kind. It's practical. You're more valuable to this restaurant well-fed and focused than running on a granola bar and determination. He glanced up again. Take care of yourself, Miss Reyes. Not many people will do it for you. There was something in his tone, not pity, but understanding. Like he knew what it meant to be alone in a city that didn't care if you survived or not. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice, and went to put in his order. In the kitchen, she leaned against the stainless steel counter, trying to process what just happened. Dante De Luca had essentially ordered her to take a break and eat a meal on his dime. It was controlling and presumptuous and also oddly caring. You okay? Marco, the head chef, different Marco from Dante's second-in-command. Just a confusing coincidence, asked. You look rattled. Table 12 wants the agnolotti. The usual guy? He never deviates from ossobuco. Tonight he is. I recommended it. Chef Marco raised an eyebrow. And he listened? Huh. That's new. He started assembling ingredients. This is for Dante De Luca, right? The boss? Everyone called him that. The boss. Like there was only one person who mattered. Yes, Emma said quietly. Better make it perfect then. Chef Marco grinned. Can't disappoint the man who basically owns half of Little Italy. Emma didn't respond. She was too busy thinking about the way Dante had looked at her when he'd asked about her last meal. Like he actually cared. Like she was more than just a server who'd happened to be convenient that one night. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The rest of dinner service passed in a blur. Emma managed her section, supervised the other servers, handled minor crises with the efficiency that had earned her the promotion. But part of her attention was always on table 12, where Dante ate her recommended agnolotti slowly, savoring each bite. When she cleared his appetizer plate, he caught her eye. Excellent recommendation. You were right about the pear and sage. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did. And now, he gestured to the empty seat across from him. Now you'll take your break. Emma froze. Sir? Your break. I believe I mandated one. Dante's voice was mild, but firm. Sit. Eat. The kitchen should have your meal ready. I can't eat with a customer. I'm not a customer right now. I'm someone ensuring you follow your employer's labor laws regarding meal breaks. A slight smile. Sit, Miss Reyes. I promise I don't bite. Emma looked around the dining room. Marcus, the floor manager, was watching with wide eyes. Richard, the owner, had materialized near the bar, also staring. Other servers were pretending not to notice while definitely noticing. This was insane. This was inappropriate. This was Dante De Luca requesting her company, and Emma had exactly zero power to refuse. She sat. A moment later, Sofia appeared with a plate the agnolotti Emma had recommended, alongside a small arugula salad and crusty bread. Her eyes were huge as she set it down. Enjoy, Sofia whispered, and fled. Emma stared at the food. It smelled incredible. Her stomach growled audibly, betraying exactly how hungry she actually was. Eat, Dante said gently. I'm not going to watch you starve out of politeness. So Emma ate. The first bite of agnolotti was heaven-rich, silky, perfectly balanced. She'd been telling the truth about this dish. It was comfort food. The kind of meal that made you remember why you loved food in the first place. Better? Dante asked, after she'd eaten several bites. Much better. Thank you. Emma took a sip of water. You didn't have to do this. No, but I wanted to. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with those dark, unreadable eyes. Tell me about yourself, Emma. May I call you Emma? The use of her first name felt intimate, dangerous. If you'd like, Mr. De Luca. Dante, he corrected. We're sharing a meal. First names seem appropriate. Emma's heart was beating too fast. This felt like more than dinner. This felt like a line being crossed, though she couldn't articulate exactly what line or why it mattered. There's not much to tell, she said carefully. I grew up in Queens, went to Hunter College, worked my way up at Marcello's. Pretty standard story. Nothing about you seems standard. Dante's gaze was steady. You have a degree in hospitality management. You could work anywhere: hotels, corporate catering, event planning. Those positions pay better than serving tables. Why stay here? I like restaurants. I like the immediacy of it making someone's evening better, one meal at a time. It feels more personal than corporate hospitality. You like taking care of people. It wasn't a question, but Emma nodded anyway. I guess I do. Who takes care of you? The question hit harder than it should have. Emma set down her fork. I take care of myself. I'm good. At it. I'm sure you are. But that's not what I asked. Dante's voice was soft now, almost gentle. Everyone needs someone watching their back, Emma. Even the strong ones. Especially the strong ones. Do you have someone watching yours? She asked it before thinking, then immediately regretted it. You didn't ask men like Dante De Luca personal questions, but he didn't seem offended. If anything, he looked pleased that she'd pushed back. I do. Several someones, actually. Loyalty is currency in my world. I've invested heavily in it. He paused. That night last week, when you stood up for Sofia, that was loyalty. The real kind, not bought or coerced. Just genuine care for another person's welfare. She's a good kid. She didn't deserve to be fired. Neither did you. But you were willing to accept it if it meant protecting her. Dante leaned forward slightly. Do you understand how rare that is? In a city like this, where everyone's scrambling to survive, where self-interest is practically a religion you chose differently. Emma felt exposed under his gaze, like he could see things she didn't want examined. I just did what felt right. Exactly. Dante smiled. You have a moral compass that doesn't adjust based on personal cost. That's extraordinary. It's really not. It is to me. The intensity in his voice made Emma's breath catch. I spend my days surrounded by people who calculate every move, who weigh every relationship against potential profit or loss. You didn't calculate. You just acted. That's refreshing. Emma didn't know what to say. She focused on her food, trying to ignore the fact that every eye in the restaurant was on their table, trying to ignore the way Dante's attention felt like sunlight, warm, intense, impossible to hide from. How's your mother? Dante asked, changing the subject. Emma's head snapped up. How do you know about my mother? You mentioned her once, months ago. I asked if you had plans for Thanksgiving, and you said you were visiting your mother in Queens. His expression was neutral. I remembered details about people who interest me. She'd served him Thanksgiving weekend. A throwaway conversation while she cleared his dessert plate. She barely remembered it, but he did. She's fine, Emma said slowly. She's retired, living in Astoria, and you send her money. It wasn't a question. Emma's hands tightened on her fork. How do you work 2 jobs sometimes, don't you? The occasional catering gig when Marcello's is slow. All that money doesn't go to your tiny studio in the East Village. He knew where she lived. He knew she worked extra jobs. He knew things he shouldn't know unless he'd been paying much closer attention than a casual diner should. Emma should be frightened. She should be angry. Instead, she felt something else entirely, a strange mix of exposure and safety, like being seen was dangerous but also necessary. My mother has medical expenses, Emma said quietly. Her pension covers most of it, but not everything. I help when I can. You're a good daughter. I'm her only daughter, her only family. Emma met his eyes. What about you? Do you have family? Yes. Dante's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. A mother who lives in New Jersey, 2 younger sisters, both married with children. I see them for holidays, make sure they're comfortable. Do they know what you do? The question hung between them. Emma knew she'd crossed a line, acknowledged the elephant in the room. The fact that Dante De Luca wasn't just a wealthy businessman who happened to command unusual respect. They know enough, Dante said carefully. Enough to understand why certain precautions are necessary, not enough to be truly complicit. He paused. I keep them separate from my work. That's safer for everyone. But lonely. Dante's eyes flickered with something that might have been surprise. Yes, but necessary. They sat in silence for a moment. Emma finished her agnolotti, hyper-aware of the intimacy of this conversation. She was sitting across from a Mafia boss, discussing loneliness and family like they were old friends. Why did you really help me that night? Emma asked quietly. It wasn't just about the wine. Dante considered her for a long moment. I've been watching you for months, Emma. Every time I come here, I see you working efficient, kind, professional. You treat everyone with the same respect, whether they're wealthy regulars or first-time tourists. You notice things. You anticipate needs before they're voiced. You're exceptional at what you do. Lots of servers are good at their jobs. But not many would sacrifice their own position for a colleague they're training. That showed character. Dante's voice dropped lower. And I wanted to know more about someone with that kind of character. Wanted to see if you were as interesting as I suspected. And? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Am I? More. The single word carried weight. You're more interesting than I imagined. Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Marcus, wondering why she was still sitting with a customer. Reality intruded. She was still at work, still on the clock, still surrounded by coworkers and customers who were definitely going to gossip about this. I should get back, she said reluctantly. Of course. Dante signaled for the check, which Sofia delivered with trembling hands. He added his usual 35% tip, then added more. Emma saw him write a number that made Sofia's eyes widen. As Emma stood, Dante rose as well. He handed her a card plain white, with just a phone number embossed in black. If you ever need anything, he said quietly. Anything at all, call that number. Emma took the card, her fingers brushing his. The contact sent electricity up her arm. I don't need anything. Everyone needs something eventually. Dante's smile was slight, knowing, when you do, I'll answer. Then he was gone, disappearing into the bided Manhattan night with that same quiet authority. Emma stood holding his card, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. Oh my God. Sofia appeared at her elbow. Emma, what just happened? You had dinner with Dante De Luca. You talked to him. He gave you his private number. Do you know what that means? It doesn't mean anything, Emma said automatically, but her voice lacked conviction. It means everything. Marcus materialized, looking pale. Emma, I need you to be very careful here. Whatever's happening between you and De Luca. Nothing's happening. He was just being polite. Dante De Luca doesn't do polite without purpose. Marcus gripped her shoulder. He's interested in you. That's either the best thing that's ever happened to you, or the most dangerous. Sometimes both. Emma looked down at the card in her hand. Just a phone number, innocuous and terrifying. She should throw it away. She should forget about dark eyes and careful questions about her mother. She should go back to her normal life, her safe life, where Mafia bosses were just well-dressed customers who tipped generously. Instead, she tucked the card into her pocket, right next to her heart. 3 days later, Emma's mother called with news that made her stomach drop. The doctor wants me to have surgery, mija, for my heart. There's a valve that's not working right. Emma sat down hard on her bed. When? 3 weeks. Maybe sooner if there's a cancellation. Her mother's voice tried for brave and landed on scared. The insurance will cover most of it, but there's still the deductible, and I'll need help afterward during recovery. And how much is the deductible? $8,000. But Emma, don't worry about, I'll handle it. Emma's mind was already racing through numbers. Her savings had maybe $3,000. Her next paycheck would add another $1,000. She could pick up extra catering shifts, maybe borrow from who? She didn't have anyone to borrow from. Mija, you can't. That's too much. I'll figure it out, Mama. You just focus on getting better. Emma forced confidence into her voice. We'll make it work. After they hung up, Emma sat in her dark apartment, staring at nothing. $8,000. She might as well need $8 million. Her hand moved to her pocket automatically, finding the card Dante had given her. She'd carried it with her for 3 days, like a talisman, a promise. An option she told herself she'd never use. If you ever need anything. Emma stared at the embossed numbers. She could call. Dante De Luca clearly had money, and he'd made it clear he was interested in her. Whatever that meant, he'd help, she was certain of that. And then she'd owe him. Really owe him. Not just gratitude for saving her job, but an actual debt. In his world, with his rules. Emma put the card back in her pocket. She wasn't that desperate. Not yet. 1 week later, Emma was that desperate. She'd picked up every extra shift she could find. She'd asked Richard for an advance on her salary and been denied. She'd applied for personal loans from 3 banks and been rejected by all of them. Not enough credit history, they said. Too much risk. Her mother's surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. The hospital wanted the deductible up front. Emma stood outside Marcello's at 10 p.m. After closing, the card in her hand, Dante's phone number glowing under the streetlight. Just call. Ask for help. That's what he offered. But her pride fought back. She didn't want to be another person who needed something from Dante De Luca. She didn't want to enter into whatever complicated arrangement that would create. Her phone rang, startling her. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Reyes. Dante's voice was unmistakable. You're standing outside Marcello's holding my card and trying to decide whether to call. Emma spun around, searching the street. She didn't see him anywhere. How did you? I know when someone needs help and is too proud to ask for it. His voice was gentle. What's wrong, Emma? The kindness in his tone broke something in her. My mother needs surgery. I can't afford it. Silence on the line. Then, how much? No. I can't just. How much, Emma? $8,000. Her voice cracked. For the deductible. The surgery's in 2 weeks and I don't have it. And I've tried everything. And I do. You have it now. No. I can't take your money. I can't be in debt to you like that. You're not in debt to me. Dante's voice was firm. This is a gift. For your mother's health. No strings attached. There are always strings. Emma was crying now. Tears running down her face in the cold October night. People like you don't give away $8,000 for nothing. People like me. Dante repeated softly. And what kind of person am I, Emma? Dangerous. Powerful. Someone who doesn't do anything without a reason. You're right. I don't. He paused. The reason is that you need help, and I have the means to provide it. That's enough. Why? Emma's voice broke. Why do you care? You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you work 2 jobs to take care of your mother. I know you'd sacrifice your own career to protect a teenager you're training. I know you have more integrity in your little finger than most people have in their entire body. His voice softened. And I know what it's like to watch someone you love need help you can't provide. I wouldn't wish that feeling on anyone. Least of all you. Emma closed her eyes, tears still streaming. She was so tired. Tired of struggling, of calculating every penny, of being one crisis away from disaster. If I accept this, she whispered, what happens then? Then your mother gets her surgery, recovers properly, and you stop running yourself into the ground trying to make impossible numbers work. Dante paused. Emma, look across the street. She opened her eyes. A black town car was parked in the shadows. As she watched, the back door opened. Get in the car, Dante said softly. Let's talk face to face. Every instinct Emma had screamed that this was a mistake, that getting in that car would change everything, that she'd be crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But her mother needed surgery, and Emma was out of options. She crossed the street and got in the car. Dante sat in the back seat, phone still to his ear. He ended the call as Emma settled beside him. The interior was warm, leather seats, soft lighting, classical music played quietly from hidden speakers. Hello, Emma. Hi. Her voice was small. She felt underdressed in her server's uniform, exhausted from a double shift, with tears still drying on her face. Dante reached forward and opened a small refrigerator built into the seat back. He handed her a bottle of water. Drink. You look dehydrated. Emma accepted it automatically, too overwhelmed to argue. She drank half the bottle while Dante watched her with that steady, assessing gaze. Your mother's surgery, he said finally. Street Luke's hospital, doctor. Richard Chen performing the procedure. Valve repair, estimated recovery time 6 to 8 weeks. Emma stared at him. How do you know all that? I make it my business to know things that matter. Dante pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. This is a cashier's check for $10,000. 8 for the deductible. 2 for any additional costs during recovery, home care, medications, whatever she needs. Emma looked at the envelope like it was a snake. I can't. You can. You will. Dante held it out. Your mother needs this surgery, Emma. Pride is expensive, and sometimes we can't afford it. What do you want from me? The question came out harsh, desperate. Payment plans? Interest? Something else? Dante's expression didn't change. I want you to take care of your mother. That's all. Nobody gives away $10,000 for nothing. I'm not nobody. He set the envelope on the seat between them. And this isn't nothing. This is someone helping someone else because they can. Because it's right. Isn't that what you did for Sofia? Helped her because it was right? That was different. How? Emma couldn't answer that. She stared at the envelope, at Dante's calm face, at the luxury car interior that represented a world so foreign to her own. If I take this, she said slowly, I owe you. In your world, that means something. In my world, it means I've invested in someone worth investing in. Dante's voice was soft. Emma, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting favors or loyalty or… He paused, choosing his words carefully. Anything else. This is freely given. People will talk. At the restaurant, in the neighborhood. They'll say, let them talk. Their opinions don't pay for your mother's surgery. Emma picked up the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was indeed a cashier's check, made out to Street Luke's hospital, for $10,000, more money than she'd ever held at once. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held a vulnerability she hadn't heard before. Because when I was 17, my father had a heart attack. We didn't have money for the best doctors, the best treatment. He died 2 days later in a county hospital. Dante looked out the window at the dark street. I was powerless. I couldn't save him. I've spent every day since then making sure I'm never powerless again. Emma felt tears building again, but different ones. I'm sorry. That must have been terrible. It was. But it taught me the value of resources, of power, of being able to help people who matter. He looked back at her. Your mother matters to you. Therefore, she matters to me. That's all the reason I need. I don't know what to say. Say you'll schedule the surgery. Say you'll let your mother get well. Say you'll stop running yourself into exhaustion trying to be everything for everyone. Dante's hand moved, hesitated, then gently touched hers. Say you'll accept help when it's offered. Emma looked down at their hands, his larger, warmer, steady. She should pull away. She should maintain distance. Instead, she held on. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to repay you, but I'll find a way. I promise. No repayment necessary. But Emma, his thumb brushed across her knuckles, the touch sending shivers up her arm. I do have one request. Here it comes, she thought. The catch. The cost. What? Her voice was wary. Have dinner with me. A real dinner. Not at Marcello's where you're working. Just us. Somewhere quiet, where we can talk. Dante's eyes held hers. Not payment. Not obligation. Just, I'd like to spend time with you. Get to know you better. Is that something you'd want? Emma should say no. She should take the check, thank him politely, and maintain professional distance. She should protect herself from whatever this was becoming. Yes, she heard herself say instead. I'd like that. Dante smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. Wednesday evening, I'll send a car for you. Wear something comfortable. Where are we going? Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Somewhere special. Trust me. Trust him. A mafia boss who'd inserted himself into her life with money and power and careful attention. Emma should absolutely not trust him. But when he helped her out of the car, when his hand lingered on hers just a moment longer than necessary, when he said her name like it was something precious, she realized trust wasn't the issue. The issue was that she was already falling, and she didn't know if he'd catch her or let her hit the ground. Wednesday evening arrived with the kind of autumn crispness that made New York feel magical. Emma stood in front of her tiny closet, staring at clothes that suddenly seemed inadequate for dinner with Dante De Luca. Wear something comfortable, he'd said. But comfortable for what? Comfortable for a casual bistro? Comfortable for another high-end restaurant? Comfortable for she didn't even know what else to imagine. She settled on a simple navy dress, the nicest thing she owned that wasn't her work uniform. Modest neckline, hem just above the knee, long sleeves, professional but feminine. She paired it with her only good coat and the ankle boots she'd splurged on last year. Her mother had called that morning, crying happy tears. The surgery was scheduled. The hospital had received payment in full. Doctor. Chen had time for a pre-operative consultation. I don't know how you did this, Mija, her mother had said, but thank you. Thank you. Emma hadn't told her about Dante. Didn't know how to explain that a man she barely knew had casually solved their biggest problem with a check that probably didn't even dent his bank account. At 7 o'clock, her phone buzzed. Car is outside. Emma grabbed her coat and headed downstairs, pulse racing. A black town car idled at the curb, the same one from 3 nights ago. The driver, a man in his 50s with kind eyes, opened the door for her. Miss Reyes, I'm Vincent. Mr. De Luca asked me to bring you to him. Where are we going? Vincent smiled. You'll see. The drive took them out of the East Village, across town, then uptown. Emma watched the city transform through the window, her neighborhood's gritty authenticity giving way to the polished wealth of the Upper East Side. They pulled up to a building Emma recognized from movies and magazines, one of those pre-war apartments that cost more than most people made in a lifetime, with a doorman and an actual awning, and the kind of quiet elegance that whispered old money. Mr. De Luca is expecting you, the doorman said, ushering her inside. The elevator was all brass and mirrors. Emma watched her reflection, a send, nervous girl in a modest dress, pretending she belonged in a world where buildings had doormen and elevators had crystal light fixtures. The elevator opened directly into an apartment, not a hallway with multiple units, but a private residence that occupied the entire floor. Dante stood waiting, and Emma's breath caught. He wore dark slacks and a charcoal sweater, no tie, no jacket, more relaxed than she'd ever seen him, but no less commanding. His apartment stretched behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Modern furniture that managed to be both luxurious and comfortable. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than Emma's entire building. Emma. He smiled, and it was warm, genuine. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. Your apartment is... She searched for words. It's beautiful. It's too big for one person, but I like the view. Dante gestured toward the windows. Come see. Emma crossed the hardwood floors, her boots clicking softly. The view was breathtaking. Central Park spread out below like a dark ocean dotted with lights, the city rising beyond it in a glittering wall of glass and steel. I never get tired of it, Dante said quietly, standing beside her. Everything else changes constantly, but this view stays the same. It's grounding. Emma understood what he meant. In a life that was probably filled with violence and danger and constant calculation, having something constant must matter. Is this where you live? She asked. Or do you have other places? This is home. I have properties in New Jersey, a place in the Catskills for weekends, but this is where I sleep most nights. Dante turned to face her. I wanted you to see it, to know something real about me beyond what you've probably heard. What have I heard? That I'm dangerous, that I control territory, that people are afraid of me. His expression was carefully neutral. All true, to varying degrees, but also incomplete. Emma looked around the apartment, seeing details now, photographs on a side table showing Dante with 2 women who must be his sisters, a collection of books that suggested eclectic taste, a well-worn armchair positioned to catch the afternoon sun. Signs of a life lived, not just a showpiece. Who are you really? She asked softly. Come have dinner. I'll try to answer that. He led her through the apartment to a dining room where a table was set for 2. Candles burned, soft music played from hidden speakers, and the smell of something delicious filled the air. You cooked? Emma was surprised. I did. Nothing fancy, my mother's recipe for chicken marsala, pasta, salad. But it's real food, the kind I grew up eating. Dante pulled out her chair. I wanted tonight to be personal, not another restaurant meal where you're thinking about work. Emma sat, touched by the thoughtfulness. Dante disappeared into the kitchen and returned with plates already prepared, the presentation simple but appetizing. This looks amazing, Emma said honestly. Wait until you taste it before you commit to compliments. Dante sat across from her, poured wine, a deep red that probably cost more than her weekly groceries. To new beginnings. They clinked glasses. Emma took a sip and tasted complexity she didn't have words for. The chicken marsala was even better, tender, rich, exactly the kind of comfort food that made you feel cared for. Your mother taught you to cook? Emma asked. She insisted all her children learn, boys included. Said a man who can't feed himself is at the mercy of others, and De Lucas aren't at anyone's mercy. Dante smiled at the memory. I fought her on it when I was 14. Now I'm grateful. Do you cook often? When I have time. It's meditative, following a recipe, creating something tangible. He paused. Most of my work is intangible negotiations, decisions, managing relationships. Cooking is simple. You follow steps, and food appears. There's comfort in that. Emma watched him as he talked, seeing glimpses of the boy he'd been beneath the powerful man he'd become. What was it like? Growing up? Dante was quiet for a moment, twirling pasta on his fork. Hard. My father died when I was 17, I told you that. Before that, we struggled. He worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. We lived in a 3-room apartment in Newark with my sisters. Never quite enough money. Never quite safe. When did things change? After my father died. Dante's expression grew distant. I was angry, furious at the world, at the injustice of it. A man works his whole life, breaks his body, and dies with nothing to show for it except debt and a family he can't protect anymore. He looked at Emma, and she saw old pain in his eyes. I met someone who offered me work. Not legal work, but work that paid. Enough to support my mother and sisters. Enough to make sure they never struggled like we had. Dante took a drink of wine. I told myself it was temporary, just until I got on my feet. But temporary becomes permanent when you're good at something. You were good at it. I was excellent at it. No false modesty, just fact. I understood power, how it moved, how to acquire it and keep it. Within 5 years, I'd built my own organization. Within 10, I controlled significant territory. Now, he gestured at the apartment around them. Now I have more money than I'll ever spend, more power than I probably should, and a life that's complicated in ways 17-year-old me never imagined. Emma absorbed this. Do you regret it? Some days. The violence, the necessity of fear, the distance it creates between me and normal life. Dante's eyes found hers. But then I think about my mother in her comfortable house in New Jersey. My sisters married to good men who'd never dare hurt them because of who their brother is, their children growing up safe and educated. And I think the cost was worth it. What's the cost? Loneliness, mostly. Dante's honesty was startling. I can't have normal relationships. Everyone wants something from me: power, money, protection, connections. No one just wants me. Even family keeps careful distance. They love me, but they're also afraid of what I represent. Emma understood loneliness. She'd felt it every day in this massive city, working herself to exhaustion, caring for her mother from afar, having no one to lean on. That night at the restaurant, Emma said carefully, "When you saved my job and Sofia's, you said loyalty matters. Is that because it's so rare in your world?" "Yes." Dante's voice was soft. "Real loyalty, the kind you showed, is precious. Most loyalty I encounter is purchased or coerced. Yours was genuine. You had nothing to gain and everything to lose, and you still stood up for someone weaker. That's..." He paused, searching for words. "That's who I want to be around. People who do the right thing even when it costs them. I'm not special, Dante. I just couldn't let Sofia get fired for one mistake. That's exactly what makes you special. You couldn't." He leaned forward slightly. "Most people can, Emma. Most people protect themselves first and justify it later. You don't. You can't. It's not in your nature." Emma felt exposed under his gaze, seen in a way that was both uncomfortable and necessary. "What do you want from me?" she asked quietly. "Really want, beyond dinner and conversation?" Dante was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held a vulnerability that made her chest ache. "I want someone who sees me as more than what I do. Someone who doesn't want anything except my company. Someone who might understand that power and violence don't define the entirety of who I am." He met her eyes. "I want what you showed Sofia: loyalty, protection, genuine care, but directed at me. Is that something you could give?" The question hung between them, huge and complicated. Emma thought about the past week, the card in her pocket, the $10,000 that saved her mother, this dinner in an apartment overlooking Central Park. She thought about Dante's careful attention, his honesty about his past, the loneliness in his eyes that mirrored her own. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Your world scares me. The violence, the danger, the things you probably have to do that you don't talk about. I'm just a server from Queens. I don't belong in that world. You're not just anything." Dante's voice was firm. "And I'm not asking you to belong to my world. I'm asking if you'd like to know me, the person, separate from what I do. Can those things be separated? I don't know, but I'd like to try. He reached across the table, his hand palm up, offering, we'll go slow. Just dinner sometimes, conversation, getting to know each other. No pressure, no expectations, just two people who are tired of being lonely. Emma looked at his hand, at the choice being offered. She could walk away, go back to her safe, small life, or she could take the risk, step into the unknown with a man who was dangerous and complicated and somehow necessary. She placed her hand in his. Okay, Emma whispered. Let's try. Dante's smile was like sunrise, transforming his whole face. His fingers closed gently around hers, warm and steady. Thank you, he said softly, for trusting me enough to try. They finished dinner talking about safer things, favorite books, childhood memories, small details that built intimacy without demanding too much. Dante told stories about his sister's children, about his mother's stubborn refusal to stop cooking for an army even when it was just her. Emma talked about her father's death when she was 12, about working her way through college, about the satisfaction of making someone's evening better with good service. Normal conversation, normal connection, as if they were normal people. After dinner, Dante gave her a tour of the apartment, his home office with its impressive library, a guest room where his sisters stayed when they visited, the master bedroom she glimpsed but didn't enter. Everything was expensive but lived in, personal in a way that surprised her. They ended up back at the windows overlooking Central Park, standing close but not quite touching. Thank you for tonight, Emma said. For dinner, for talking, for being honest about your life. Thank you for listening, for not running. Dante's voice held dry humor. Most people would. Most people probably should. Probably. He turned to face her. But you're not most people. Emma felt the weight of that statement, the responsibility of being seen as different, special, worth the attention of a man like Dante De Luca. I should go, she said, though she didn't want to. I have the early shift tomorrow. Vincent will take you home. Dante walked her to the elevator, then paused before pressing the call button. Emma, one more thing. Yes? You're under my protection now. Not because you owe me, you don't, but because I want you safe. His voice was serious, allowing no argument. That means my people will keep an eye out. You'll notice someone following you sometimes, or cars parked near your building. Don't be alarmed. They're there to help. Emma's stomach flipped. You're having me watched? I'm having you protected. There's a difference. Dante's expression was earnest. Emma, people know I'm interested in you. That makes you a target for anyone who wants to get to me. I won't let that happen. I didn't ask for protection. No, but I'm giving it anyway. He touched her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. I know this is a lot. I know my world is frightening, but I promise you'll be safe. I promise. Emma should argue, should insist on maintaining her independence. But standing there, feeling the warmth of his hand on her face, seeing genuine concern in his dark eyes, she found she couldn't. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I trust you. And she realized, saying it, that it was true. Against all logic, against all self-preservation instinct, she trusted Dante De Luca. He smiled and leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, gentle, respectful, but intimate enough to make her breath catch. Good night, Emma. I'll call you tomorrow. The elevator ride down felt surreal. Vincent drove her home in comfortable silence. Emma climbed the stairs to her fourth-floor walk-up in a daze, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. Inside her apartment, she found a package on her counter. She definitely hadn't left it there this morning. Emma opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a new phone, expensive, state-of-the-art, with a note in elegant handwriting. Your current phone is outdated and unreliable. This one is secure and has my number pre-programmed. Use it, please. D also in the box. A small panic button on a keychain, instructions for its use attached. Press this if you're ever in danger. My people will respond immediately. Emma stared at the phone, the panic button, the evidence of Dante's concern and his reach. He'd been in her apartment, or had someone else enter with his permission. She should be furious about the invasion of privacy. Instead, she picked up the new phone and found his contact already saved. She typed a message, "Thank you for dinner, and for caring." The response came within seconds. "Thank you for giving me a chance. Sleep well, Emma. You're safe. I promise." Emma got ready for bed, changed into her pajamas, and lay in the dark, staring at her ceiling. Outside, somewhere in the night, one of Dante's people was watching her building, protecting her. Because a Mafia boss had decided she mattered, her life had irrevocably changed. There was no going back to the person she'd been before Dante De Luca noticed her. Emma wasn't sure if that terrified her or thrilled her. Maybe both. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Emma worked her shifts at Marcello's, now as assistant floor manager with actual authority and a salary that made life noticeably easier. Her mother's surgery went perfectly. Dr. Chen was pleased with the results, and Maria Reyes was recovering well in her Astoria apartment. And Emma saw Dante. Not every day, but regularly. He'd text in the morning simple messages like, "Good morning" or "Hope today treats you well." They'd talk on the phone some evenings, conversations ranging from 20 minutes to 2 hours. He took her to dinner twice more, once to a quiet Italian place in the village, once to his apartment again where he cooked pasta carbonara. They talked about everything and nothing. Books they'd read, movies they'd loved, childhood dreams, and adult realities. Dante was surprisingly easy to talk to when he wasn't being the boss everyone feared. He had a dry sense of humor, a sharp intelligence, and a capacity for listening that made Emma feel truly heard. The protection was constant but unobtrusive. Emma spotted the watchers, sometimes a man reading a newspaper on her corner, a car idling across from Marcello's. Different faces, but the same careful attention. Once, a drunk customer got aggressive about his bill, and before Emma could call for help, one of Dante's men appeared, politely but firmly escorted the man outside. "Mr. De Luca asked us to keep an eye out," the man said simply, then disappeared before Emma could respond. Her co-workers noticed. How could they not? Emma had gone from anonymous server to someone under the protection of Dante De Luca practically overnight. "You're dating him," Sofia said one night during cleanup, her voice hushed and awed. "Actually dating the most powerful man in the city. We're getting to know each other," Emma corrected. "It's not. We're not." But she didn't know how to finish that sentence. What were they? Not quite dating, not just friends. Something undefined, something growing, something that felt both dangerous and inevitable. Marcus pulled her aside one evening, his face serious. "Emma, I need you to understand something. Dante De Luca doesn't do casual. If he's spending time with you, taking you to dinner, having his people protect you, he's serious. That means eventually, you'll have to make a choice." "What choice?" "Whether you're in or out. His world doesn't have middle ground." Marcus's voice was kind but firm. "I like you. I don't want to see you get hurt because you didn't understand what you were getting into." Emma wanted to argue. But she knew Marcus was right. This couldn't continue indefinitely as undefined dinners and phone calls. Eventually, Dante would want more, would expect more. The question was whether Emma could give it. That question was answered for her 3 weeks and 4 days after their first dinner. Emma was closing Marcello's on a Tuesday night, the slow shift that usually ended by 10. She'd sent the other servers home early, was finishing the last of the paperwork when her new phone buzzed, Dante's number. "Hello? Emma." His voice was tense, controlled, but she heard the urgency beneath it. "Where are you?" "At Marcello's." "Closing up." "Why?" "What's wrong?" "You need to leave. Right now. Vincent is 2 minutes away. Get in the car when he arrives and don't stop for anything." Emma's heart started racing. "Dante, what's happening?" "Someone's coming for you. I just got word there's a crew heading to Marcello's right now. They know you're there alone." "Who? Why?" "The Moretti family. They want leverage against me, and they've identified you as that leverage." Dante's voice was deadly calm now, the voice of a man used to crisis. "Emma, listen to me carefully. Lock the front door right now. Go to the back office. Don't open the door for anyone except Vincent." Emma was already moving, her hands shaking as she turned the deadbolt on the front entrance. "Dante, I'm scared." "I know. I'm sorry. But you're going to be fine. I'm 10 minutes away, Vincent is closer, and I've got a team en route. Just stay on the phone with me and get to the back office." Emma ran through the darkened restaurant, her footsteps echoing. The back office had a heavy door, a lock. She threw it shut behind her, twisted the lock, and pressed her back against it. "I'm in the office. Door's locked." "Good. Stay there. Don't hang up." She heard sounds on his end car doors, shouted orders, the distinctive click of a gun being loaded. "Emma, I need you to know something. This is my fault. Being close to me made you a target, and I'm sorry. But I promise you, I'm going to fix this. Don't apologize. Just Emma's voice broke. Just come get me. I'm coming. I promise. Outside the office, Emma heard sounds. The front door rattling, then breaking, glass shattering, heavy footsteps. They're inside, she whispered. I know. Vincent is 30 seconds out. My team is right behind him. Just stay quiet and stay down. Emma crouched behind the desk, phone pressed to her ear, Dante's voice the only thing keeping panic at bay. She heard the footsteps getting closer, heard voices, 2 men, maybe 3. Check the back. Boss said she's here. Find her. Emma's hand found the panic button on her keychain. She pressed it without thinking. I triggered the panic button, she whispered. I know. I felt it. We're coming. Dante's voice was steel now. Emma, whatever happens in the next 60 seconds, know that I'm coming for you. Know that you're mine to protect, and I don't fail at protecting what's mine. The office door handle rattled. Then someone kicked it. The door shook but held. She's in here. Another kick. The door frame started to splinter. Then Emma heard the most beautiful sound in the world, screeching tires outside, car doors slamming, running footsteps. Federal agents. Hands up? No, not federal agents. Dante's people. But the effect was the same. Shouting, struggle, the distinctive sounds of a fight. Then, silence. Then, Miss Reyes? It's Vincent. You can open the door. You're safe. Emma's legs wouldn't work. She stayed crouched behind the desk, shaking, unable to move. The door opened. Vincent must have had a key. He stepped inside, kind eyes taking in her terrified face, and immediately spoke into his radio. We've got her. She's safe. Shaken but unharmed. Emma. Dante's voice came through her phone, rough with relief. Emma, talk to me. I'm okay. Her voice didn't sound okay. It sounded thin and scared and close to breaking. I'm okay. I'm 3 minutes away. Stay with Vincent. I'm coming. Those 3 minutes felt eternal. Vincent helped Emma to her feet, checked her over for injuries, offered water she couldn't drink. Through the office door, she could see the restaurant overturned chairs, broken glass, 2 men face down on the floor with guns drawn on them by Dante's security team. Then Dante burst through the front entrance like a storm, all controlled fury and lethal grace. His eyes found Emma immediately, scanned her from head to toe, and only then did his shoulders drop slightly. He crossed the restaurant in seconds, brushed past Vincent, and pulled Emma into his arms. I'm sorry, he said against her hair, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I'm so sorry. This should never have happened. You should never have been in danger because of me. Emma buried her face in his chest, breathing in his scent cologne and gun oil and something uniquely him, her hands fisted in his shirt, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had just tried to kill her. You came, she whispered. Always. Dante pulled back just enough to cup her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized she was crying. I will always come for you. Always protect you. I promise. Behind them, Dante's second-in-command, a man Emma recognized as Marco from the one time she'd met him, cleared his throat. Boss, we need to move. Police are 3 minutes out, and we need to be gone before they arrive. What do you want to do with these 2? Dante's expression went cold. He turned, still holding Emma against his side, and looked at the men on the floor. Take them to the warehouse. I'll deal with them later. His voice promised violence. And send word to Moretti if he comes after what's mine again. There won't be negotiations. There will be war. Marco nodded and started issuing orders. The men on the floor were dragged out through the back entrance. The security team began efficiently cleaning up evidence of what had just happened. Come on, Dante said gently to Emma. Let's get you out of here. I can't just leave. The restaurant is insured. I'll handle Richard. Handle the police report. Handle everything. Right now, you need to be somewhere safe. Dante guided her toward the door. You're coming home with me. Emma should argue, should insist on going to her own apartment, maintaining some independence. But she was still shaking, still hearing those footsteps, still feeling the terror of that door splintering. Okay, she whispered. Vincent drove them back to Dante's building. Emma sat pressed against Dante's side, his arm around her shoulders, his presence the only thing keeping her from falling apart completely. In the elevator up to his apartment, Dante finally spoke. I need you to understand something. This happened because I wasn't careful enough. Because I let people see you with me without properly securing all the angles. That's on me. It's not your fault some men tried to. It is. Dante's voice was firm. Everything that happens in my world is my responsibility. Every threat, every danger, every consequence. I brought you into this world, Emma. That makes your safety my burden. I'm not a burden. No, you're precious, and precious things require protection. He looked down at her, and his eyes held something that made her breath catch. I can't lose you. Not now. Not when I've finally found someone who sees me as more than what I do. An elevator opened into his apartment. Dante led Emma inside, straight to the couch overlooking Central Park. He poured her a glass of brandy she didn't want, but sipped anyway because he seemed to need her to do something normal. Stay here tonight, Dante said quietly. Stay where I can keep you safe. We'll figure out next steps tomorrow. Next steps? You can't go back to your apartment. Not right now. Moretti knows where you live, where you work. Until I resolve this situation, you need to be somewhere secure. Emma's exhausted brain struggled to process. You want me to move in here? Temporarily, until the threat is neutralized. Dante sat beside her, taking her hands. Emma, I know this is a lot. I know I'm asking you to upend your life because of danger I brought to your door, but I'm asking anyway. Please stay. Please let me protect you properly. Emma thought about her tiny studio apartment, about going back there knowing men had tried to kill her tonight. She thought about working at Marcello's, wondering if someone would break in again. She thought about the bone-deep terror of the past hour. Then she looked at Dante at the concern in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he held her hands like she might disappear if he let go. What about my mother? If they know about me, they might already handled. I have a team watching her building. She's safe, I promise. My job? Richard will understand you need time off. I'll make sure you're compensated. Emma closed her eyes. This was happening so fast. 3 weeks ago, she was just a server who caught a Mafia boss's attention. Now she was sitting in his apartment, having survived a kidnapping attempt, discussing moving in with him. Just for a few days, she said finally. Until you handle whatever needs handling. However long you need. Dante squeezed her hands gently. I have a guest room. You'll have privacy, space. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to keep you safe. Okay. Emma opened her eyes. Okay, I'll stay. The relief on Dante's face was palpable. He pulled her into another embrace, and Emma let herself sink into it, let herself accept comfort from the man whose world had almost killed her tonight. Thank you, Dante murmured against her hair. Thank you for trusting me. Emma didn't respond. She was too busy trying not to think about what came next, about the fact that she'd just agreed to move into a Mafia boss's apartment, about how her safe, small life had exploded into something unrecognizable. She was in Dante De Luca's world now, really in it. Not just dinner dates and phone calls, but protection details and warehouse interrogations and men with guns. There was no going back. The question was whether she wanted to. The guest room was beautiful cream walls, a king-sized bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, an ensuite bathroom with a rainfall shower and towels so soft they felt like clouds. Dante gave Emma privacy to shower and change into borrowed clothes, one of his t-shirts and soft sweatpants that had to be rolled several times to fit. When she emerged, she found him in the kitchen, making tea. Chamomile, he said, handing her a delicate porcelain cup. It helps with shock. They sat at his kitchen island in comfortable silence. Emma's hands had finally stopped shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving exhaustion in its wake. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you rest. Tomorrow, I handle the Moretti situation. Dante's voice was calm, but Emma heard the steel beneath it. They'll learn what it costs to threaten you. Will you? Emma paused, not sure how to ask. Will people die because of this? Dante met her eyes. Possibly. Probably. Does that bother you? Yes. Emma's honesty surprised herself. But also, they tried to kidnap me. They would have hurt me to hurt you, so I can't exactly claim moral high ground. You don't have to condone what I do, Emma. I don't need your approval for the darker parts of my life. Dante's expression was serious. But I do need you to understand that violence is sometimes necessary in my world. That protection requires consequences for threats. I understand. And terrifyingly, she did. I don't want to think about it too much. Then don't. Let me handle the ugly parts. You just focus on staying safe and recovering from tonight. Emma sipped her tea, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. Dante? Why me? Really? You could have anyone. Someone from your world who understands it better, who wouldn't need protecting. Why invest so much in someone like me? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held a vulnerability that made her chest ache. Because everyone from my world wants something from me. Power, money, connections, protection. But you asked for nothing. You needed help and hated having to ask. You'd rather struggle alone than owe someone a debt. He smiled slightly. And when I insisted on helping anyway, you tried to repay me with loyalty and trust instead of fear. That's incredibly rare. I'm not special. You are to me. Dante reached across the counter, his hand covering hers. Emma, I've spent 20 years building power, creating an empire, making myself indispensable and feared. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to just be seen as a person. You see me that way. Not Dante De Luca the boss, but just Dante. Emma turned her hand over, lacing their fingers together. Just Dante is pretty great. His smile was like sunrise. Just Emma is extraordinary. They finished their tea in comfortable silence. Eventually, exhaustion won, and Emma could barely keep her eyes open. Go sleep, Dante said gently. Tomorrow will be better, I promise. Emma nodded and headed toward the guest room, but paused at the doorway. Dante, thank you for coming for me tonight, for keeping me safe. Always, he said simply. For as long as you'll let me. Emma fell asleep in the impossibly comfortable bed, in the guest room of a Mafia boss's apartment, safer than she'd been in years despite the violence that had brought her here. And somewhere in the night, in his own bedroom down the hall, Dante De Luca lay awake, planning exactly how the Moretti family would pay for threatening the woman who'd become far more important to him than he'd ever intended. Emma woke to sunlight, streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the smell of fresh coffee. For a disoriented moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back: the attack, Dante's rescue, agreeing to stay in his apartment. She found him in the kitchen, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, his tone clipped and authoritative. When he saw her, his expression softened immediately. I'll call you back, he said into the phone, then set it down. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than expected. Emma accepted the coffee he poured for her. What time is it? 9:30. I let you sleep in. You needed it. Dante gestured to the counter where pastries were arranged on a plate. I had these brought up from the bakery on the corner. Eat something. Emma selected a croissant, still warm and flaky. Have you slept at all? A few hours. I had calls to make, arrangements to handle. Dante leaned against the counter, watching her. The Moretti situation is resolved. Emma's hand froze halfway to her mouth. Resolved how? Negotiations, a demonstration of force, an understanding reached. Dante's voice was carefully neutral. You don't need details. You just need to know you're safe now. They won't come near you again. Emma set down her croissant, suddenly not hungry. Did you kill them? The men who broke into Marcello's? Dante was quiet for a long moment. Do you really want to know? I don't know. Maybe? Emma rubbed her face. I'm trying to understand what my life looks like now, what being with you means. Being with me. Dante repeated the phrase slowly, like testing its weight. Is that what we're doing? Emma looked up at him, at this man who'd saved her job, saved her mother, saved her life, who cooked dinner and made her laugh and also ordered violence with the same calm efficiency. I think so. Maybe. I don't know what to call this. Dante moved closer, coming around the counter to stand in front of her. He took her hands gently. Emma, I need you to understand something. What I do, my business, my world, it requires hard decisions. Sometimes, those decisions involve violence. I won't lie to you about that. His dark eyes held hers. But I will never ask you to participate in that violence. I will never put blood on your hands. Your job is just to exist in my life. To be the person who sees me as human. To be safe and happy. That's all I need from you. What do you want from me, Dante? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Really want, long term. Not just dinners and protection. What's the endgame here? Dante cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. I want you in my life, permanently. I want to wake up and know you're safe under my roof. I want to come home to someone who cares about me, not what I can do for them. He paused, and Emma saw something vulnerable flash across his face. I want to love someone again. To be loved. Is that something you might want too? Emma's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. This was too fast, too intense, too everything. She'd known this man for less than a month. But she also knew the feeling of his arms around her when she was terrified, knew the sound of his voice promising he was coming for her, knew the careful attention he paid to her happiness, her comfort, her safety. She knew that being alone in this city had been slowly killing her, and Dante made her feel alive. She whispered. I might want that too. Dante's smile was brilliant. He leaned down and kissed her gentle at first, then deeper when Emma's hand slid up his chest to his shoulders. His arms came around her waist, pulling her closer, and Emma forgot to be scared of what this meant. When they broke apart, both breathing harder, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said quietly. Not just until the threat passes. Stay here with me. Let me take care of you. Let this be home. That's a big step. I know. But I'm asking anyway. Dante pulled back to look at her. I've never felt this way about anyone, Emma. I've never wanted someone in my space. In my life. This way. You're different. You make everything different. Emma thought about her tiny studio apartment with its leaky faucet and noisy neighbors. Thought about struggling to make rent every month. About choosing between groceries and new shoes. About being alone every single night. Then she looked around Dante's apartment, beautiful, comfortable, safe. Looked at the man offering her not just a place to stay, but a place to belong. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay, I'll stay. Dante's joy was palpable. He kissed her again, longer this time, with a passion that made Emma's knees weak. Thank you, he murmured against her lips. Thank you for giving us a chance. The next week passed in a blur of adjustment. Vincent drove Emma to her old apartment to pack her things, which didn't take long since she didn't own much. Dante insisted on buying her new clothes, new toiletries, everything she needed, and several things she didn't. I can afford my own clothes. Emma protested when he handed her a credit card with her name on it. I know you can, but I want to. Dante's tone brooked no argument. Let me do this. Let me take care of you. Emma found she couldn't argue, partly because the credit card would make life easier, and partly because the way Dante's face lit up when he gave her things made her chest ache in the best way. Her mother called, worried about why Emma had suddenly left her apartment and taken time off work. There was an incident at the restaurant, Mama. Just some vandalism, nothing serious. But my boss thought I should take a break, and a friend offered me a place to stay for a while. A friend? Her mother's voice was suspicious. What kind of friend? A good friend. Someone who cares about me. Is this friend a man? Emma smiled despite herself. Yes, Mama. He's a man. And he has a place big enough for you to stay? It's a nice apartment. Very safe. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Mija, I know you're 27 and capable of making your own choices, but be careful. Men who seem too good to be true often are. I know, Mama. I'm being careful. Emma wasn't sure that was true. Moving in with a Mafia boss after 3 weeks was the opposite of careful, but it also felt right in a way she couldn't explain. Dante was attentive without being smothering. He left for work early most mornings, returning by dinner. He never brought his business home, never exposed Emma to the darker parts of his world. In the apartment, he was just Dante cooking meals, recommending books, asking about her day. They established routines. Morning coffee together before he left for work, dinner together most evenings, either at the apartment or occasionally at quiet restaurants where Dante was clearly known and respected. Late-night conversations on the couch, talking until Emma fell asleep against his shoulder. They were building something. Emma could feel it taking shape, this life they were creating together. But she also felt the weight of what she'd stepped into. The security guards who followed whenever she left the building. The way people looked at her differently now with respect or fear or calculation. The knowledge that Dante's protection came with a price, even if he never asked her to pay it. 2 weeks after moving in, Emma was at the apartment alone when the doorbell rang. She answered, it to find a woman in her early 30s, beautiful and polished, with dark hair and eyes that held immediate assessment. You must be Emma, the woman said with a slight smile. I'm Adriana, Dante's younger sister. May I come in? Emma's heart rate spiked. She wasn't prepared for meeting family. Of course, please. Adriana entered with the easy confidence of someone who'd been here many times before. She settled on the couch, studying Emma with those sharp eyes. My brother talks about you constantly, Adriana said without preamble. Emma this, Emma that. Emma makes him laugh. Emma sees him differently. Emma changed everything. I had to meet the woman who accomplished what dozens before her couldn't. Emma perched on the opposite chair, feeling evaluated. I didn't accomplish anything. We just connected. Don't be modest. It doesn't suit you. Adriana's smile was knowing. Dante doesn't do casual, Emma. He doesn't bring women to this apartment. He definitely doesn't ask them to move in. Whatever you did, it worked. I didn't do anything except be myself. Exactly. Adriana leaned forward slightly. That's what makes you different. Everyone else tries to be what they think Dante wants. You're just you. Genuine. No calculation. Should I be calculating? God, no, please don't start. Adriana laughed. I like you, Emma. You're real. That's rare in our world. I'm not sure I'm part of your world. I'm just living with my brother. Wearing his ring on your finger, no. Don't look surprised. I saw it when you opened the door, accepting his protection and his care. Adriana's expression grew serious. That makes you part of this world whether you intended it or not. Emma looked down at her hand. Dante had given her a ring 3 days ago, not an engagement ring. He'd been clear about that. Just a promise ring, he'd said. A symbol that she was his, under his protection. The emerald caught the light, beautiful and heavy with meaning. I care about him, Emma said quietly. I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I care about him. Is that enough? That's everything. Adriana's voice softened. Emma, my brother has spent 20 years being hard, being feared, being alone. You make him soft. You make him happy. That's a gift I can't repay. I'm not trying to change him. You're not changing him. You're reminding him of who he was before the world made him into what he had to become. Adriana stood, preparing to leave. Just, don't hurt him. He'd never recover from it. I won't, Emma promised, and meant it. After Adriana left, Emma sat alone in the apartment, thinking about what it meant to love someone like Dante. Someone whose world was violence but whose heart was surprisingly tender. Someone who'd built walls for survival but was slowly lowering them for her. She was in deep now, past the point of easy return. The question was whether she had the courage to go deeper still. That night, Emma and Dante had dinner at a small trattoria in Little Italy. Dante knew the owner, who greeted them warmly and ushered them to a private table in the back. Your sister visited today, Emma said after they'd ordered. Dante's eyebrows rose. Adriana? What did she want? To meet me. To make sure I was real, I think. Emma smiled. She threatened me if I hurt you. That sounds like Adriana. Dante reached across the table, taking Emma's hand. What did you tell her? That I care about you. That I'm not going anywhere. Are you sure about that? Dante's voice held unexpected vulnerability. This life, my life, it's not easy, Emma. There will be danger sometimes. There will be complications. People will judge you for being with me. Your old life is essentially over. I know. Emma squeezed his hand. I've thought about it. A lot. And I keep coming back to the same conclusion. Which is, that I'd rather have a complicated life with you than a simple life alone. Emma met his eyes. You make me feel seen, Dante. Protected. Cared for. Nobody's ever done that before. My whole life, I've been the one taking care of others. My mother, my co-workers, even customers at the restaurant. You're the first person who insisted on taking care of me. Dante's expression was intense. You deserve to be cared for. Maybe, but nobody else thought so. You did. Emma felt tears threatening and blinked them back. So yeah, your world is scary and complicated and probably dangerous, but you're worth it. This, she gestured between them, is worth it. Dante stood abruptly, came around the table, and pulled Emma to her feet. He kissed her in the middle of the restaurant, deep and passionate, and completely unconcerned with propriety. When they broke apart, Emma was breathless and dizzy and happier than she'd ever been. I love you, Dante said simply. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy, but I love you, Emma. You've become the most important thing in my world. Emma's heart felt too big for her chest. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. They sat back down to dinner, both grinning like idiots, hands clasped on the table. The food was excellent, but Emma barely tasted it. She was too busy feeling the weight and wonder of what they'd just said to each other. I love you. 3 words that changed everything. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of the mirror in their bedroom, adjusting the simple white dress she'd chosen. Not a wedding dress exactly, just a beautiful dress for a beautiful day. They were getting married. At City Hall, with just family present: Dante's mother and sisters, Emma's mother, a few close friends. Small and intimate, exactly what they both wanted. "You look beautiful," Dante said from the doorway, and Emma turned to find him in a dark suit, looking at her like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. "We're really doing this?" Emma asked. "We're really doing this." Dante crossed to her, taking her hands. "Having second thoughts?" "No, just taking a moment to appreciate how different my life is from a year ago." "Better different or worse different?" "So much better." Emma squeezed his hands. "Scary sometimes, definitely complicated, but so much better." "Good." Dante kissed her softly. "Because I plan on spending the rest of my life making sure it stays that way." The ceremony was short and sweet. Emma's mother cried. Dante's mother beamed. Adriana whispered, "Welcome to the family, sister," with genuine warmth. Marco, who'd become something like a friend to Emma over the months, served as witness. He handed Dante the rings with a small smile. "Take care of each other," the officiant said after they'd exchanged vows. "Build a life of love and trust. You may kiss your bride." Dante kissed Emma like she was air and he'd been drowning. The small crowd applauded. Emma's mother hugged them both. Dante's mother pressed a family heirloom into Emma's hands, a delicate gold bracelet that had belonged to her grandmother. "Your family now," Maria De Luca said simply. "Welcome home." Afterward, they had dinner at an elegant restaurant Dante had rented out entirely. Just their small group, celebrating quietly. Emma sat next to her new husband. What a strange and wonderful word, and felt peace settle over her. This was right. This man, this life, this choice. "Happy?" Dante whispered in her ear. "Incredibly," Emma whispered back. That night, back in their apartment, their home, Emma and Dante stood at the windows overlooking Central Park, the same place they'd stood so many months ago when this was all new and uncertain. "Do you ever regret it?" Dante asked quietly. "Saying yes to that first dinner? Getting involved with someone like me?" Emma thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the danger, the complicated adjustments, but also the love, the safety, the feeling of being truly seen and valued. "Never," she said firmly. "Not even once." Dante pulled her close, his arms around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Best thing that ever happened to me, getting stuck with you." They stood together in the dark apartment, the city glittering below, their future stretching ahead, uncertain in details but certain in foundation. They had each other. They had love. They had a life they'd built together from an impossible beginning. Reyes, Emma De Luca, now had begged a Mafia boss not to fire her coworker, and he'd noticed her courage. That one moment of desperate loyalty had changed everything. She'd been fired for standing up for what was right, but that firing had led here, to this moment, to this man, to this life. Sometimes, Emma thought, the worst things that happen to us are actually doorways to the best things we never knew we needed. She turned in Dante's arms, kissed him deeply, and said, "Take me to bed, husband." Dante smiled, that rare, genuine smile that was hers alone now. "Anything for you, wife." They left the windows and the view, heading to the bedroom they shared, to the life they'd built, to the future they'd create together. One bowl of soup, one act of loyalty, one moment of being seen, that's all it took to change everything. And Emma De Luca, formerly Emma Reyes, formerly just a server trying to survive in Manhattan, had never been more grateful for the courage to do the right thing, even when it cost her everything, because what she'd gained in return was worth infinitely more. Epilogue, 1 year later. The grand opening of Hope Kitchen, Emma's charity project providing meals to struggling families across Manhattan, was packed with press, donors, and the people it was designed to serve. Emma stood at the podium, no longer nervous about public speaking, and looked out at the crowd. Her mother sat in the front row, healthy and beaming. Dante's family occupied the next row. Sofia, now assistant manager at Marcello's, waved from the back. "A year and a half ago," Emma began, "I almost lost my job for doing what I thought was right. I defended someone who needed defending, and it cost me everything I thought I had." She found Dante in the crowd, standing against the back wall, watching her with pride and love. "But that moment, that choice led me here, to a life I never imagined, to work that matters, to love that sustains me." Emma's voice grew stronger. "Hope Kitchen exists because sometimes our lowest moments become doorways to our greatest purpose. Because someone saw value in me when I felt worthless. Because love and protection and second chances are powerful things. The crowd applauded. Emma cut the ribbon. The doors opened, and families flooded in for their first free meal. Dante appeared at her side, slipping his hand into hers. "Proud of you," he murmured. "Couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." They watched together as Hope Kitchen fulfilled its purpose, feeding the hungry, offering dignity, providing hope. Emma had poured Dante's money and her own heart into this project, determined to pay forward the second chance she'd been given. "Ready to go home?" Dante asked after the ceremony ended. Home, their apartment overlooking Central Park, the place where Emma was safe and loved and exactly where she belonged. "Always ready," Emma said, and they left together, hand in hand, heading home to the life they'd built from courage, loyalty, and love. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.